football, I know there's a lot of interest in the Trevor situation. So from this past weekend, I would first want to reiterate what I said last week about the kid. I really enjoyed getting to know him. I think he's a great kid, great person. We've got to know his family. He enjoys being coached. He's a bright kid. We push him hard out there, and he really loves the competition. But as we also know, sometimes kids don't make the best decisions. The older you get, sometimes the tougher the consequences are for your mistakes. So he's not going to let this mistake define him. He's embarrassed, he's upset, he knows he's made a mistake. It's a teaching moment, and we hope he gets better from it. In addition to our university discipline process, we've got all the stuff we deal with inside house, and he'll be with those same details. He'll be under the same rules that we have in-house, as well as the university discipline. So disappointed in his decision making, but he is a good kid, and with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Kirby, is this a situation where you have to let the legal situation play itself out before you decide on any discipline going forward, or is that already been determined?
Some of both. Some of it has to play itself out. We're still gathering information in terms of the report and things, but some things we know already. As usual, like I said, the university discipline is going to take its course, as well as what he has to have consequences for his actions from the team. So both those things will play out as we gather more information.
Yeah, Coach, I'm curious, during your time here, have you ever seen, during spring practice, a player, it just seems like it clicks, or he has a tremendous spring, and then that rolls over into his performance in the fall? And if you have, if there's been anybody that might be on that track this spring?
Man, it's hard to say. It's like on a continuum. I wish there was somebody I could think of. I thought Carson had a really good spring last year because he took more of the ones reps than he ever had, and then he had a really good fall. But I fully expected that to happen with him. Dylan Bell last year had a really good spring, and thought he had a good season. A couple of the young linebackers we've had where they had good springs and then jump forward to that. There's a lot of guys I think having good springs out there right now, but only time will tell whether that turns into a great fall.
Hey Kirby, we get a chance to talk to JaMarr Thomas for the first time today, and wanted to ask you how he's been able to go at it this spring and where he's at kind of in that safety competition, because I know you guys are going to have one opposite of Malachi.
Yeah, you guys are going to have a couple guys today that you haven't had as much. I'm trying to get some more faces out there. We're such a young team. So I asked that y'all go easy on JaMarr and Julio. They're probably scared to death to come talk to you guys. But he's a great kid. He's we recruited him as a size and speed player. He has really good size. He has good speed. He's fun to coach. He's a great kid. He had a first year, he played a lot of nickel star in high school, more like a Sam linebacker, walk out in space. We taught him his freshman year really how to play safety. That was new for him. Last year, I felt like he got to the point that he could really understand the defense, know it, react. When you've never seen things from 10 yards and you've only played them from 2 to 3 yards, it's a big change in visual backing up. Well, he's gotten that pretty good. He's now working some at Star with Janelle as well. So I feel like he's had a good spring thus far in terms of picking things up. He's competing at 2 positions. So he's a dual train guy, probably getting more mental reps at Star since he hasn't played that, and while also getting reps at safety. And I'm excited to kind of see him in his first scrimmage this Saturday.
Yeah, to ask about another guy, Julian Humphrey, a guy who worked his way into the rotation going through last year. How have you seen him progress over the past year or so, and where is he in that corner battle? How is he assuming the role as one of the veterans there at cornerback?
Yeah, well, if everybody understands Kamari's situation last year, Kamari could only practice, I would say 30-40% of the practices during the season, so there was a lot of available reps for Julio, for Julian. He did a great job. He worked hard. He picked things up. He had to increase his toughness. He's always been able to run. He's always been able to cover, but his issues came from knowing exactly what to do with people. Motion, things change, and I thought last year he did a great job of that. He picked all that up. He played really big in our Missouri game and covered people well. Had kind of a breakout game there, and then he had the unfortunate injury against Ole Miss. So he's had a good spring practice so far. I hope that continues. He's hungry. They got good competition going on at corner. You know, we don't look at it as two corners. I mean, we look at it as if there's four corners that can play, one of them is going to also play star, and they'll all play. And the more winning football players we can have at corner, the better off our team can be.
Yeah, part of the discussion around Julio was also him announcing that he was going to enter the transfer portal and ultimately ends up staying here. What did that process of getting him to stay here look like? And in this day and age, how prevalent is that? How often does that happen when you have multi-year guys and convincing them to try and stay in the program?
Well, I think kids get confused. I think kids, a lot of times, we try to communicate really well with our kids, be upfront with our kids, but look, it's the nature of the beast. They turn on their phone and they see other people doing it. It becomes a trend. It's like anything else in social media. If he's doing it, then shouldn't I be doing it? Isn't the grass greener on the other side? And sometimes they don't know. You know, sometimes they're getting reached out to by other places, and maybe they shouldn't be, but that's just the nature of the beast, and ultimately he's here. That's the only thing I'm concerned with, and I don't think that's a story that he was thinking of going in and going back. That's just the day and age we live in. The most important thing is he chose to be here and compete, and he's got a great family. They've sacrificed a lot for Julio to be in the position he's in, and they support their son. And they want him here because they know how we coach, and the thing I like about Julio's parents, they appreciate the toughness that we coach him with.
Kirby, my question is about what can you tell us about Daniel Harris and Janelle Aguero? We haven't seen a whole lot of them. Can you give us some pros and cons? Tell us a little bit more about them. Something you just mentioned about the portal, maybe people reaching out to them. How prevalent is tampering right now?
I don't know. I don't have a phone tap on anybody's phone. I don't have a wire. I'm not the feds. So I don't know. I can only tell you that when kids come in to see me, they have a plan. So they either did some pre-planning or something occurred, but it's really almost impossible to navigate or monitor or police. And I'll be honest with you, I don't get real lost over it, because the kids that stay will be the ones we coach, and the kids that go will have to provide an opportunity for somebody else, you know. And that's really the way I look at it. We try to do the best job we can of being honest with our kids and sell what our program has done in the past. I tell the story millions of times of everybody's past different. And when you get on your phone and you hit maps and you go and put an address in, it shows you 6 different ways to get there. And everybody's path is different. And Coy Walker's was very different than Kobe Dean. So each one self, but each his own. But Daniel and Janelle are doing a good job. They're both, again, second-year players. You know, it used to be, it was really hard to play your first year. Your second year was kind of your year to like start getting in the rotation, maybe the 2 deep, maybe special teams. Both of those guys were able to play some last year through opportunities afforded a lead. We got to get them in. They're both good athletes. They both sometimes have poor eye control, don't look at the right things. But Janelle's very physical, and is an explosive football player. Daniel's very fast and long. So sky's the limit, but they're not to the sky. So they got to keep improving, and I'm excited about where they are. They're really good football players. If they want to stay here at Georgia and continue to get better and grow and play, they have bright futures in front of them, and each one of them is exciting players.
Kirby, this is pretty old news, 6 days old. We haven't talked to you since the 2025 scheduling came out. I wanted to ask you, in lieu of some of the conversations at the spring meetings, I know you've been in favor of some of the different models and you want players to see different opponents over the course of their 4 years. Were you a little surprised, and I guess just your reaction to them flipping the schedule rather than maybe going in the direction of the schedule rotation that we've heard so much talk about?
I don't know what alternative schedule you're referencing that we have heard talked
3-6,
about.
1-7.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised, because if they start doing that, then there's somebody's not going to get the ball into the deal. Me personally, I just got one of the toughest road schedules in the country I'd like to see it flipped, where I got the opportunity for our fan base to have probably the best home schedule ever in Georgia history. So you start changing the model, I don't get the flip of the model. And they presented us multitude of opportunities. The most continuity is in doing this for 2. Let's see what it's like. Let's see how things play out. Let's see what the CFP becomes. How many teams are going to be in the playoff? Does that designate us to go to 9? Does television have something to do with that? There's a lot of unanswered questions, and to have a little bit of just continuity and know what you're going to get, I'm completely fine with that.
Kirby, when KJ Balden was committed elsewhere, what was how did you approach recruiting him, with not giving up, and how is he and Ellis Robinson doing, in their first springs?
Yeah, they're first spring players. They're talented players. Everything they were advertised to be in terms of being good football players, instinctive. They both learn well. They both have toughness. I think both of them will contribute on special teams because they can run, hit, tackle. I'm excited about those guys. The expectation of the outside world is that they're going to set up the place on fire. We have good football players here. They're going to go compete with those guys and hopefully earn some ability to play and playing time. But as far as KJ's recruitment, I don't see kids as committed to other places because they're not signed. There's no we recruit good football players. We evaluate every player the same whether they're committed or not. And if there's interest from them and there's conversation from them and there's visits where they come to your campus, then you just be very consistent. And we were very consistent with KJ. The recruitment never stopped. And I told him that from the day he committed to the day that he came to us. We were not going to stop recruiting because we think he's a great kid from a great family and a really, really good football player. So he and Ellis have a chance to make us much better in the day and age of college football, where you better have depth and you better have players when guys leave. These guys are going to get opportunities to play.
Yeah, I'll ask you about another freshman, Joseph Jon J. His size really stands out. How do you see his sort of development playing out because of that size and unique ability?
Well, I don't know how his development plays out. I think that would be remiss to me to sit here and tell you I know what this guy's going to become. I mean, no defensive lineman comes in here and just dominates their freshman year. We haven't had any. I think he can provide depth. I think he can get a lot better. The good news is he's getting a lot of work with Ty Ingram, Dawkins out. He's getting 40 to 50 reps a day, which is huge for his development and get better. He's not having to sit over there. Some of the mid-years take 20 to 25 reps. He's getting 30 to 40 reps. And I think it's going to speed up his process and hopefully provide us some depth. But I'm very pleased with where he is, but he's not going to go out there and start next year, not with some of the guys we got right now.
Kirby, a couple weeks into spring practice, just what have you noticed about Dante and T-Rob and their coaching styles? I think we saw Dante out there with a helmet on during the first day.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I don't know if that's legal. I hope it is. He's got a helmet on out there and like an extra player, but he may need it for safety because some of those corners may be coming after him. But they both have great energy. They got great relationships with their players. They're really good recruiters, but they're passionate and they have good energy on the field. Everything that we heard about them and the things we wanted them to come into our program for, they're here for. And I'm really proud of both those guys and how they've transitioned thus far.
Kirby, what have you seen from Micah so far this spring, and just what's the competition at guard look like to this point in spring?
Well, all those guys are rolling. Tate's been able to play some center, which has opened up some guard reps. You've got Dylan, Micah, all those guys competing there at guard, and the two young guys playing there. So it's been a good rotation. Micah's a very veteran, physical presence. He gives us a toughness and just an identity on offense of contact striking. Guys on defense know when Micah comes up on a double team or Micah pulls, he's coming with bad intentions, and he's good to have in terms of that group creating an identity.
One last question on the driving offenses, at least for me. Obviously, there's been a lot in the last year, 17 and the last 15 months, that involves some sort of speeding or something like that. I just wonder from your perspective, how much maybe NIL might have to do that, access to money and nice fast cars and that kind of thing. And in what ways are you trying to address that? I know you are, I understand you are. How are you sort of trying to tackle that issue in particular?
Yeah, I think as everybody in the country shares ideas, we talked about it at SEC meetings, we talk about it all the time across the country when I meet with other staffs. What do you do in special teams? What do you do in offense and defense? What do you do off the field? I think that's one of the areas that we've really tried to target, and I think we do it better than anybody in the country. I can only speak for my university, but I think we do it better than anybody in the country in terms of education, speakers. To your point about the NIL, we've done studies and looked. We have more kids with vehicles now than we probably ever have. I can't really say to the style of vehicles. You could probably make an easy assumption that with more money they have an opportunity to have nicer cars, but just the number of players with vehicles is higher. But that's not any excuse for the ability to speed. It just means we have more opportunities to have traffic citations, which we don't want.
Can you recap how Ernest Reed fared last year? Very young guy at a pivotal position, then what you've seen this spring and kind of what you hope to see from him this coming season?
Well, his stamina and work ethic and practice has improved each and every. He came in as a freshman, talented, had an injury, couldn't play. So then he comes back and he struggled to get through practices sometimes in the spring and in the fall last year. And he got better at that. He had better stamina. He covers down more now. He plays with a little more effort. There's times that I still think he gets matched up with guys. And Michael goes with him, Damon goes with him, Jalen goes with him. Those are great battles for him to get better. The top SEC pass rushers he's going to have to go against, that's great competition for him. He prides himself on being an elite offensive tackle, and he works that way. So how did he play for a redshirt freshman? In our league, he played pretty good, considering he held up and did good things at probably the hardest position to play in all of college football. And I want him to be better this year. I want him to be even better than he was last year with leads and practices.
Hey, Coach. Obviously, you talked about some of the other guys in front of Joseph. Two of those guys obviously being Mr. Sackos and Warren Brinson. How great was it to have those guys come back and have some veteran leadership in that group for a very young group as a whole?
Yeah, it's great as long as age doesn't prevent growth. I mean, there's opportunities for younger players to come in and grow and get better. And I think those guys, we have to be smart about, number one, how we practice them, the reps they take. Do they stunt growth? If they stunt growth, then maybe we don't get better for the next year. I certainly didn't sit on this podium last year this time thinking those two guys would be back. So the fact they were was a luxury in terms of depth. But we still have to get better. And if they stay the same, they did no good coming back. And we've had multiple talks about how easy it is to get comfortable and complacent in these years, but they both have a purpose. So are they going to have a chip on their shoulder, or are they just going to sit around and just, collect? I hope they get better. I hope they grow. I hope they have intentions of moving up and improving their draft status and getting their degrees, and both of them are on track to do that.
Got time for one more question?
Kirby, the NFL adopted that XFL kickoff today. Is that something that on the rules committee y'all have talked about kickoff changes in general?
Yeah, interesting. I saw that. Somebody texted me that. I didn't see it, and I thought that came up in our meetings because we meet with the NFL personnel. They come in and give us a State of the Union. This is where we are, and then we share with them, well, this is where we are. We're sharing stats from our game, and it was, I can't, quote me exactly on this, it was around 80% of their kickoffs were touchbacks. And a lot of the NFL people and personnel felt that special teams were becoming irrelevant in their game because the punters are elite hang time and distance, kickers are elite kicking off. If that's not part of the game, then why are we doing it? Okay, and how do we do it, make it part of the game, but yet also make it safer? So I don't know our percentages in college football. I would guess around 70% touchback. It's slowly getting taken out of our game. There's coaches that concede this fair catch, and so I don't know what came out today. Y'all probably know better than I did. I did see a picture of how they're lining them up. They discussed that with us. That's going to create less violent blows. But the way I understood it, it was also going to be a reward for you returning it or a punishment for you kicking it out of the end zone. It's going to promote kicking the ball in the field of play, because if you kick it out of the end zone, now the ball comes further out. So they're going to make it defend. They felt like you can't develop players in the NFL anymore without special teams, because they feel like young players develop. Charlie Warner, N'Kobe Dean, their first year they played 10 times more snaps on special teams than they did at their position. But those snaps now are irrelevant because it's a fair catch or a touchback. So if you want to develop your roster, you need to have special teams to develop it. We feel the same way. I developed my roster through special teams. The guys last year that started on all the units will probably start at a position this year. So you need those plays to be part of it, but you need them to be safe, because the highest injury rate has been kickoff, return, punt, return. A lot of that soft tissue, because you would think collisions, but it's more sprint. So you pull, and then also the collisions on kickoff, return. So I think the NFL is the model. They know what they want. They know what they're trying to do, and they're going to get it right. And then, hopefully we can start looking into that ourselves if the kickoff is not part of our game.